All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge Tech Talk on Stiletto today. You'll see up here our agenda. We'll get a Stiletto overview, and then we're going to hear from two companies that have participated and used the Stiletto platform. So without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Julie Stark to do a quick Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge intro.
Good afternoon, everybody. We're coming to you from our Tech Bridge space at the Assembly Building in downtown Norfolk. We're very pleased today to host a number of events like this to help industry and our industry partners do engagement with different agencies. I'm very proud of the Stiletto Demonstration Program that will be briefed to you today because my colleague, Dennis Danko, who you see on the screen now, is a colleague of mine from NSWC Carderock. So the Tech Bridge is the Mid-Atlantic Tech Bridge. We're composed of Carderock, Niwik Atlantic, and Niwik Dalwar Dam Neck activity. We're here in the Norfolk area, and the links that are there in these slides will be made available to you. If you don't know what Tech Bridge is, we host a number of events like this. You're welcome to follow those links, sync up with us on LinkedIn if you would like to do some additional engagement. And today, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Dennis that's going to talk about the joint Stiletto Experimentation Program. I'm sure I'm botching that name, but he'll tell it to you correctly.
I do too.
All right, Dennis, I think it's all yours.
Okay, now to move the slide ahead,
you're just going to click on left click. Okay. You should be good.
All right, good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for participating, and thank you to Dr. Stark and Tina for having us do this tech talk. It's an honor to be here and glad to talk about our program. It's specifically, we have a new name called Joint Prototyping and Experimentation Maritime Program. The new name comes from our sponsor, again, because for years, many on the line may know, many of this might be new, but we've been known as the Stiletto Maritime Demonstration Program. But the program is much more than the Stiletto. Stiletto is the platform or the venue from which we do our maritime experimentation. But the program consists of much more, and I'll review that today. First is an overall overview. We do experimentation and demonstration of innovative maritime technologies. What that means is we get new technologies, we get them on a boat, and we get them out in the water and evaluate feasibility, technical maturity. We look at experimentation of new technologies. The secret to us is we can rapidly integrate a new prototype or technology on the maritime platform because we've evolved over the years to be able to, we have the space, weight, and the power to bring on any number of technologies and do maritime experimentation. As an example, we can put a new radar on this boat in a matter of a day, vice months or years that it would take to put it on a different maritime platform. We also are able to support the joint forces in that we can operate in the open ocean if we need to, or we can operate in littorals or expeditionary environments. We can go 100 miles because we're 80 feet long and 40 feet wide, or we can go 100 yards off the coast because our draft is 2 feet. But anyways, our bottom line is we want to help industry marry up with the operational forces to bring new technologies to bear on the water. Again, our mission is supporting the joint forces, but our focus areas is one, the Stiletto vessel is the platform for which we do maritime experimentation. And our goal is to discover and integrate state-of-the-art maritime technologies. Again, we can bring aboard just about anything, and we'll go through a couple of examples as I go through the talk today. But the idea is we bring it aboard, we design an experiment, we get underway in a realistic maritime environment where they're going to experience bouncing up and down on the water, bouncing up and down on waves. We design most of our experiments using a relevant tactical backdrop, a tactical scenario. And we have representative threat scenarios. We'll put a fake periscope in the water, or we have small boats or larger boats as targets. So we get out there and we do realistic maritime experimentation. And again, our goal is to work with government stakeholders and match them up with industry to put the very best, the very latest, the state of the art out on the water. And the other thing is we're open to all, joint, small business, industry, government, international, you name it, come aboard. So I want to talk about the two demonstration paths we follow, basically. The first one we call a technical demonstration. I have on the slide that it's controlled by the system developer. And you'll hear from some of the guys like this today, but this is somebody who has a maritime technology that they want to get out in the water and they want to experiment leading up to a demonstration. It can be, we prefer civilian, small business, but it can be a Navy lab, it can be anybody, but it's particularly focused on usually just a single technology. The potential demonstrator submits an application. We have a stiletto.navy.mil. You submit an application. We review the application. Review that, I mean the Stiletto team. And I should be saying, by the way, JPEM team, but I've been doing this for a while and I'm not used to it either. But the Stiletto team reviews it. Our sponsor is up at the Office of the Secretary of Defense Research and Engineering. They used to be called RRTO for Rapid Reaction Technology Office. They're now called OSD, R&E, C&P for Capability and Prototype. So they're our primary sponsor, and we keep them informed of what we're doing. And we the Stiletto team and JPEM team, builds a demonstration plan along with the inputs from the system developers. And we get out in the water and we experiment and we demonstrate. Some experiments might take an hour, a day, a week. We've also had technologies on board for a year or longer. You cannot fail on the Stiletto platform. We want you to learn and we want to advance technologies. So again, that path is specifically for a particular technology or system that we want to get out there in the water. We also do capability demonstrations. The capability demonstrations, I'll say, are controlled by stakeholders from government commands or agencies. For example, we do events called Advanced Naval Tactical Exercises, which the NavalX commands operate. We do a Trident Spectre exercise under the SOCOM hat. We do radar events for PAC Fleet. But this is a capability demonstration, which is the government stakeholder determines the focus, whether it be a specific technology like a radar, or whether it's a specific mission area, like anti-surface warfare, or like harbor defense, or autonomous platforms, whatever. The bottom line there is, again, they come to the program, and sometimes through OSD, and say, we want to put on a demonstration and we want to achieve these goals. They'll come to us, we learn from them, we understand their objectives. The program will put out an RFI to industry. We'll put it on sam.gov. We'll solicit inputs to bring on here. We'll have a down select along with the government stakeholders, and we'll prepare, again, a demonstration plan based on what they want to see. Again, these events usually last a couple of weeks, at least 2 weeks in duration. And we'll bring aboard anywhere from 4 or 5 different technologies. For some of them, we bring up to 20 to 25 technologies in a week or two. So that's the kind of the path we follow. And I won't get into it much here, but we do have classified capability. We have a skiff on board. If we need to do classified programs, we can do that. I know I'm talking fast, but that's, if there's any questions, we'll answer. This is an example of some of the capability demonstrations we did last year. We work with the Army on their new maneuver support vessel light, their navigation systems. We put on a couple of different systems, specifically looking at obstacle avoidance, but we help them in their development of that new vessel. We've done cyber resilience testing on the Maritime asset, where we had we brought a red team. We had cyber defense capabilities, and we had a ship emulator. We got underway, and we had the commercial organization provide their cyber defense while we had the red team jamming into them and spoofing into them to evaluate cyber defense. We work with the Marine Corps on their new amphibious combat vehicle, again, their navigation and command and control technologies. I mentioned SOCOM and the Trident Spectre exercise. We've been their lead maritime asset for many years, like 10 years. Again, we'll bring aboard 20 or 25 technologies in a 2-week by working with them. We've also done advanced naval tactical exercises. Just an example, and again, one I didn't put up there 3 years ago, we worked with PAC Fleet. After the ship collisions in the PAC fleet a couple of years ago, the investigation determined they probably could use some new maritime radar, a different maritime radar. Well, they came to us, and over a 3-month period, we evaluated 8 different radars, down selected the 3, down selected the one they chose, and they'll put them on boats. Again, we did 8 radars on Stiletto in less than 3 months. And then we also do, as I said, the smaller ones, where we work with specific industry partners. We average about 60 of those a year. And we are always looking for small business partners or non-traditional developers. The big companies, the Lockheeds, the BAEs, they usually have their own boats. The guys we work with, we want to give them an opportunity to get out on the water. Just real quick history, Stiletto was built in 2006 by the Department of Defense, the Office for Force Transformation, as a concept demonstrator. In those days, the pushers were the Bush-Rumsfeld guys. They went away. So did the concept for smaller, faster network connected boats. OSD said, what are we going to do with this boat? Our current sponsor, RRTO, said we'll use it as a maritime technology platform. Since then, we've evolved it into doing what we do now. It didn't start out like this, but we've added an extra generator for technology. We've added the arch space that we can plug on, bolt on, bolt off, plug and play, swap, connectors, powers, everything else. So again, we can install stuff in a day and get out in the water. Next, I'm going to show some pictures. This is the Stiletto. I say we're big, 88 feet long, 40 foot wide. Our cruise speed is 32 knots. Our max speed is almost 50 knots. So if I need to work 100 yards off the coast, no problem. If I need to go 100 miles off the coast, no problem. We have a flight deck specifically designed for UAVs. We've launched probably 50 or more UAVs in the last several years. We have the boat is built out of carbon fiber. I talked about most of this, but we have our own organic gear, radars, cameras, etc. We have I'll show better pictures of a launch and recovery system we have. This is the arch space where, again, we bolt on, plug and play stuff. We have conduits and cable pass-throughs going down into the command and control space. Again, very easy to bring something on board and get it operational. Plus, the Stiletto crew, we're 7 people who do this every day. So there's very few problems they can't solve. This is the command and control space down on the port side. We have a similar space on the starboard side I don't have pictures of. But this is where all the technology guys, all of the engineers work together, meet the warfighters in this room. Climate controlled, comfortable shock mounted seats, night ops, for daylights, red lights. Just more of this, dual display screens at every workstation. I mentioned clean power and network access. You can access the Stiletto network or bring your own laptop, and we have a SATCOM system that we can get through the dirty internet. An internal comm system, which you usually don't use, people just yell, which is all right. Again, shock mitigating seats. This is our flight deck. When we have pretty command and control intense type exercises where we need antennas and mounts, etc., we put this grid up on the deck to give us extra space to mount technology type equipment. I mentioned our launch and recovery capability. We have the easiest launch and recovery system in the world. We lower a ramp several degrees, and we have our own 11-meter NSW rib. Actually, we have 2 NSW 11-meter ribs, which we use as either a target platform, support platform, however we need it, but it's very easily launched and recoverable. As you can see, we've launched a UUV on the left side. We've launched work with the NSW and SDVs, CRRCs with Marines. You can see in the bottom, we've even used the net to recover UAVs, jet skis. Like I said, we've done a lot of UAV work, but I would say we've even had marine mammals on board Stiletto. We launched and recovered marine mammals over the past. So very capable for launch and recovery. So real quick highlights, 60-some technologies a year. Half our technologies come from small business, and we're pushing for more small business, more non-traditional. We can operate in the open ocean, littoral or expeditionary. Automatically, systems increase their TRL level because we are a prototype demonstration. And again, we work with industry. Right now we have 160 CRADAs with different industry partners. So we have that process down also. I want to, again, real quickly, our plan so far, we're working with NSW and Department of Energy on a project called Project Stark. We're working with our unmanned surface vessel hazard avoidance perception systems for USVs. We're working with NRO on a project called Brigantine, which has to do with overhead sensors. We're working with NSA, where we're going down to North Carolina area to work with them on something called Storm Force, and we're back at Trident Inspector this year. And then some of the smaller ones, again, specific engineerings, we just worked with ST Engineering, which is a company from Singapore. They showed us, or they're experimenting, we're still working with them on an autonomast, which you could install on any boat and then turn it into an autonomous platform. So just an example of some of the stuff we're working on, for example, the hydrogen fuel cell generator that the Army was working with NRL on that, and we're going to come to Stiletto and bring us a Stiletto and put it on there and work it out. So just you can share this brief, Julia, Tina, with whoever needs it. But
I'll bring up the video.
okay, I'm going to show a quick video on what we a recent event. It was called Contested Logistics. Our sponsor at OSD, called up and said, hey, we need to evaluate contested logistics. We need to get out in the water. We need to show, we need to work in this area. We put out an RFI to industry along with our partners on the land version, which is called Thunderstorm. But we put out an RFI to industry and selected 10 technologies to come aboard and evaluate in this joint contested environment. You can start the video.
Okay.
Yeah,
I have the volume down.
Okay. They can hear me still, right?
Yeah, they should be able to.
Yeah, sponsored by our sponsor, Contested Logistics. These were the lines of effort we followed: command and control, power projection, distributed ops. Like I say, we try to do everything against a tactical backdrop. We use the expeditionary advanced base operations concept as our tactical backdrop. We went over across the Chesapeake Bay towards the Fisherman's Island. In our scenario, we set up that the Joint Commander established this area of interest as where we would do our tactical, our mission. We set up, constructive geography for advanced expeditionary bases. We got USVs underway early to do ISR in preparation of the battle space. Stiletto came on into the area and launched another USV. We set up our mobile network so that we all communicate. We had a system called COPERS that maintained the COP, the Common Operational Picture. We launched other USVs for contact investigation. We had UAVs. We launched UAVs from land and from the boat in order to help in that picture. But we were looking at freedom of navigation. We also had a red team out there that was jamming and spoofing and attacking us cyberways. So we had these systems out there that were designed specifically to counter jamming, spoofing, and attacking. This is us. Of course, we're leaving Little Creek. We are in Little Creek, Virginia. We're going out there with our support assets. Again, this is across the bay, about an hour transit across the bay, the Fisherman's Island. We do several of our events here. I'm going to stop talking now and let you read about some of the systems that we had out there. Well, I won't stop talking. I never stop talking. But I'll just say that the Trident is an AXV. It can go underwater or it can go on the surface. And we evaluated that. We got into the area. This was a system from Booz Allen called Vega, which was looking for dirty signals in the air that were being provided by the red team. This is a system called MAPS from Collins Aerospace, which uses anti-jam technology. And they were being jammed, and we were able to evaluate their success against it. And then we had another system called IX Blue, which converted to INS, or inertial navigation, when GPS was degraded. We have reports on all of this, and if you're interested in more thorough reports, please send us an email, and we can help you with that information. This systems was the COPERS. Again, we talked about this came from the Air Force Research Lab, where we were able to have a mobile network. This was launching a smaller, long endurance USV. We didn't know what to do with it, so we put a decoy on it. That was a radar decoy. So now we were out there pretending we were an aircraft carrier. And again, this was COPERS, which was from the Air Force Research Lab, which we use that where our sponsor up in Washington could look on his phone and see what was going on out on the water where we were. And we used this persistent systems wave relay to set up our mobile ad hoc network, again, to keep everybody in communication. So we were talking with our boats, with the USVs, with the UAVs, all kept talking. And that's the COPERS picture that we maintained from Stiletto. We were launching UAVs, but this UAV had the capability to distinguish between good or bad, red or blue UAVs, so that we were evaluating that capability. That was Pierce. Again, in the scenario, we flew it over land. We would fly it over land before we'd actually send boats or people in there. In the scenario wise, that again, the red team, which was called JVAB, Joint Vulnerability Assessment Branch, who are also a part of our OSD organization. One of the company that has been experimenting with us for about a year is She Machines. We gave them one of our ribs and they autonomized it. So they're now using it it's an autonomous boat using their autonomy. They also have a remote control capability so that when we wanted to conduct logistics transfer, they could drive it close to the boat and we can do a package transfer. This was their AI, or artificial intelligence camera, which we've had that on board for a year, helping them collect data, learn pattern of life type stuff that will help in the AI world. And then this was the radar decoy that we evaluated on top of the small USV, small solar powered USV, so long duration. Good lessons learned with this. And that's what we're out there to learn. We're out there to experiment and learn and take it a step further. And like I say, if there's any more information, we're at stiletto@navy.mil. I think we're going to hear some people who participated in Stiletto talk next. So
yes, well, thank you, Dennis. And could you say, and we'll post it in the chat, what's the best way, the link to find more about Stiletto and then even apply for it? So, and you can say it, but we'll also post it in here too.
Right. The Stiletto@navy.mil is still the easiest way to get in touch with us. But we've also worked with the Naval Postgraduate School, and the Naval Postgraduate School has a website for OSD R&E programs, and we're a part of that.
Okay.
And Slammer, it's called Slammer. Naval Postgraduate School Slammer.
Okay.
We're putting most of our reports and our information in that Slammer database.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
We'll do that too. Okay, so in the essence of time, thank you very much, Dennis. We are going to hear from our first company that has used Stiletto. We're going to learn a little bit about them and then, their experiences with Stiletto. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Ed. And Ed, you can just tell me when to advance your slides.
Awesome. Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Hopefully.
Yes, I can hear you loud and clear.
Great. First, my apologies to Dennis. All my slides are mistitled. I have titled them Stiletto instead of JPEM, so I will try to get it right. My name is Ed Baumann. I'm a senior program manager for a company called Trident Systems. In the list of CRADAs that was on slide 18 earlier, we would be the bottom one, the Maritime Data Collection Condition-Based Maintenance Phase 2. I'm going to talk a little bit about who we are so you can understand who we are as a company, and a little bit about what we have done with Stiletto and the value that it has provided for us. Next slide, please. Starting with a little bit about who we are. Trident is a small business in Fairfax, Virginia. If you're not familiar, we're about 15 miles west of DC, just outside the Beltway. We've been in business since 1985. Currently have 130 employees, so we are still a small business, but we're generally a little larger for a small business. We have two primary business units, one focused on spaceborne RF payloads, and then the business unit I'm in focuses on C4I technology. My team works specifically on tactical health monitoring and prognostics efforts for a number of platforms, large tactical trucks, high-speed assault craft, unmanned vehicles, ground combat systems, etc. What you see on the slide here represents just some of the platforms we've worked with in 2021 and 2022. As a small business, we don't view ourselves as an expert on a specific platform. We are not an OEM. We don't make any of these ourselves. Rather, our focus is broadly on how we can provide predictive analytics and CBM plus technologies to these vessels, vehicles, and weapon systems. This has been a big push across the DoD over the past couple of years. Commandant of the Marine Corps has written about their need for CBM plus and predictive analytics. There's many lines of efforts. This is a large deal and a very important technology space that we are excited to be working in. Might seem very different, all the different types of things we work with, but they all have a lot of similarities. Most of the time we're working with a digital sensor bus, which allows us to deploy algorithms on a platform, feeding off the real-time data streams. Pretty much all of these have engines of some kind, whether electric or diesel, and they all operate in very unique environments that if you do work with the military, you're somewhat familiar with. And all of this has been born out of different amounts of SBIR, STTR, and RIF efforts. Next slide, please. So as a company, we do research and development projects, but we do that to develop products to support the warfighter. To just highlight two examples, on the left-hand side of the slide, you'll see pictures of our work with the Marine Corps, instrumenting their light, medium, and heavy tactical fleet with data loggers to rapidly scale their data collection efforts across all three MEFs. As vehicles return to the motor pool, all the parametric data is collected from the mission, transmitted to a local server, and then aggregated into a data analytics environment for predictive maintenance and advanced diagnostics. This is built out of an SBR phase 2 that ended in 2019, was deployed in 2020 to just 20 assets for a year-long minimum viable product demonstration, which ended in August of last year. And so this year we've scaled that up to over 300 platforms. On the right-hand side of the screen is the Mini Secure Communications Controller, or SCC, which is also built out of SBR topics. It is a more mature product. It has been out there for a longer time. It provides the ability to cross-connect disparate radio types to enable fast, efficient communications between partner and coalition environments. Currently, it is within a Marine Corps Systems Command program of record, deployed to the Fleet Marine Force in all three MEFs, as well as the Army and SOCOM. But as you look at this, you should see a problem. As we do this work, you'll notice on the last slide that we operate out of a standard Northern Virginia office building. We don't have the inherent access to the target platforms that the DoD wants to gain insight into, the same way that primes, warfare centers, or UARCs do. We have built up some in-house test assets, digital representation of a CAN bus, things like that, so we can collect data from analogous systems. But to truly build predictive modeling for these platforms, we need access to the platforms. We don't have the ability to run large diesel engines, see representative loads, forces. We don't have our own fleet of ships. And that's where JPEM has come into play. Next slide, please. We first saw the Stiletto platform working with the high-speed assault craft in Virginia Beach. A mutual government stakeholder connected us to the platform to help demonstrate on a different and more open platform than what we were working with. The second time we saw Stiletto, we started exploring different options. You'll see on the screen a depiction of the vessel. From our standpoint, it's got 4 large diesel engines, multiple generators, and other shipboard equipment that is similar to what we are looking at on other craft, but it is a more open demonstration platform. And from the start, that meeting was a refreshing change from most of the ways that we first interact with the government over the years looking at new platforms. Normally, we open with questions such as, where can we install equipment? Do you have any data we can use? Or do we have to collect it ourselves? And where can we install equipment was met with, well, you can go here or here or here. Here's an equipment rack, here's power. To the question on data, we were told, no, but let's get a CRADA set up, and then you can collect the data that you need. It was almost as if they wanted to support our work, where most of the time we feel like we are less than supported from some of the program offices we work with. As we work through the CRADA process, it went very quickly. As Dennis mentioned, there's an application. We put together a quad chart, worked with their team. It went through very quickly. And we've currently set it up in 2 different phases. The first phase, which is depicted on the left half of the screen, is simply that data collection effort to ensure that we have the signals needed to benchmark our algorithms. We installed a small commercial data logger, GPS, and LTE connection to collect the data and send it back to us. At Trident, it's stored in a central repository, allowing our data scientists to review it, analyze any trends that they see, and update our algorithms. Alerts have been able to be developed, and various features of interests have been cataloged. The goal of this phase is to ensure that the hardware we place on the platform in phase 2 will be able to accurately capture issues and abnormalities with the systems. So right now we're testing phase 2, which is running in our lab on the same data. We've taken it from the canvas and we're playing it back in real time to watch how we characterize the platform. This phase will consolidate those capabilities into a small embedded computer that can monitor the canvas in real time, make health decisions across all 4 engines, and then monitor the health in ways that are incredibly difficult for the engineer or captain while in operation. To give you an idea of the operating environment, you saw the Stiletto underway, you saw some pictures of the bridge. There's a lot of things going on. When they're actually moving the platform, they have to keep an eye out for the other assets they've deployed to the area. They have to watch out for commercial and pleasure craft that are around. The sea state can get fairly hairy for them. So there's many things to pay attention to. And in addition to all that, there's 4 displays, 1 for each engine on the bridge. Each display has a wealth of information, but it's locked onto multiple different pages that have to get flipped through. And unless you're looking at the right page, you could miss something. Really what we're putting on there is health monitoring to help enhance what is currently viewed and looked at, and to draw attention to the areas of critical interest before they become bigger problems. Our health monitoring can be broken down into 2 categories, single engine and multi-engine. So single engine algorithms are very similar to what we put onto vehicles. You have 1 engine and you're looking at temperatures, pressures, speeds, rates of change of different systems. By itself, that can catch impending issues in a single engine. What's interesting about Stiletto is it does have 4 large diesel engines. Many times they operate at least 2 or all 4 in parallel at the same time. So now we can do cross comparison between the engines. If 2 engines have the same load profile, the same speed, and very different exhaust gas temperatures, that's indicative of a problem. And identifying these problems early are key for mitigation of issues that could deadline an engine. From our perspective, while a lot of what the JPEM team demonstrate is technology to enhance the fleet, new radars, new capabilities, we're looking at this as a way to demonstrate the health monitoring capabilities that could be transitioned to other craft, but also to support them and what they do and try to keep their vessel operational as best they can. So in summary, what we're doing here what we do on many platforms. However, with Stiletto, we have a highly supportive environment allowing us to test and demonstrate methods that could be then translated over to high-speed assault craft, patrol craft, autonomous vessels, many different platforms. Next slide, please. So pulling back from our work on Stiletto, and I kind of want to explain the areas of value that we see just as a small business. First, their charter for the platform as a whole to be that research development demonstration platform for the Navy, as well as other branches, is a great value. Normally, we work with the program office that wants a capability, but then we have to talk about what assets they might have for test and demonstration, which are normally few and far between. We have been 5 months into a contract without access to a platform or data before, which is very difficult to actually complete the contract. Stiletto is set up to support with dedicated program and technical staff who are all experts at what they do. Second, normally it takes many revisions of safety releases, wiring diagrams, TDP review, and other discussions to install equipment on the platform. But again, because they're a charter, getting up and running was smoother than we had hoped for. Their flexible interior and integration spaces that you saw in the video are just really great to work in. They've got a lot more space than most platforms because it's just been set up for a wide range of technology demonstrations. Third, for us, Stiletto has a large number of common features that we work with on other platforms. It's got the diesel engines. It's got the ability to do UX V demonstrations, integration space, advanced hull design, lots of different things that are of interest for developing monitoring techniques. And then finally, the aspect of the data. Being told that we could collect whatever data we needed to demonstrate was awesome. Many programs view themselves as the sole controllers of their data, and if they don't protect it, nobody will, rather than working as a collaborative partner to try to get new capabilities out there. So to me, the overall impact of these items to small businesses is immense. Developing products for the military has a high barrier to entry. As Dennis mentioned, that the large primes have their own vessels, their own demonstration platforms. But for small businesses, it can be hard. It can be hard just from the capital required to get into the game, as well as cracking the code on how to work through what can be seemingly confusing and complex bureaucracy. And working with their team has been great just to help shape that and make it a smooth process. Next slide. And then zooming out one more level, I do not speak for the Navy. This is as a small business perspective. I do see a lot of value to the Navy because this really enhances the Navy's return on investment. Providing a low-risk platform for demonstrations with minimized red tape not only accelerates what we can do as a small business, but it also streamlines such that they can test the next surface ship radar quickly. As Dennis mentioned, they can get something up and running in a day that would take weeks or months to get onto a surface combatant. And so all of these programs, the testing that they showed, their recent Scout program, testing of the unmanned platforms, different competing technologies, that's all risk reduction that Stiletto and the JPEM team provide. Which really is a huge value, I think, to everybody involved. Next slide, please. So in summary, from our perspective, the JPEM program has provided new avenues for us as a company to support development of solutions for the Navy. They provide value to small businesses in general, and really this enhances everything that the Navy is trying to do. That is all for me. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ed. We really appreciate your time. And that was a great presentation talking about Stiletto. So next, I'm going to turn it over to the Modern Intelligence team. And Trevor, I believe that's you. Perfect.
Yep.
And I can hear you loud and clear.
Awesome. Thank you. So I am the lead engineer at Modern Intelligence. My name is Trevor Sorrells. We are a startup based out of Austin, Texas that started about a year and a half ago. And thanks to Stiletto, we've been able to go from an idea to a TRL-7 product in less than 12 months. So next slide, please. So Modern Intelligence is seeking to fill the gap in maritime domain awareness. There's a lot of problems in the maritime domain that are solved in one-off pieces by a lot of different products. Some things that will maybe solve AIS spoofing may not actually be able to tell you if this is the same ship you saw earlier, whether or not it's actually broadcasting AIS. There's a lot of threats all over the place. In Indo-PACOM specifically, you have a lot of stuff that's being disguised as shipping vessels or fishing vessels. Inside CENTCOM, there's a lot of smuggling. This extends to US Southcom, and effectively every COCOM has the problem where there are not enough eyes and not enough sensors to give you an accurate picture of what you're looking at in the maritime domain. Next slide. So modern intelligence sought to solve this problem by taking this from the highest level down to the lowest level, which starts with taking in satellite information, figuring out what you're looking at, and then being able to pass that off as you move down towards the find, fix, and finish cycle, right? So I should be able to take the satellite image, figure out what boat I'm looking for, hand that off to a wide area motion imagery sensor or an airborne FLIR sensor, look for the same ship, hand that off to a surface vessel, and be able to finish that target and figure out what I'm actually going to do and know I'm looking at the target the entire time. Next slide. So specifically to do this, we've leveraged AI in a lot of different ways, and we do it in a few unique ways, which includes target detection, target re-identification purely through visual purposes, being able to place targets in real space just by looking at them, so passive optical radar, and be able to assign visual ideas and pull out actual unique features for vessels. So what's the hull number, what's the length, what color is it? All these different things completely autonomously, not requiring a person sitting on a bridge to be looking at 4 different sensor feeds, trying to figure out, is this the ship I saw earlier? Next slide. So to do this, we've developed modular AI. So a way to deploy on any platform, any UI, any sensor. We're completely agnostic. We can deploy on ATAC, any other COP. We've done this through a few different exercises this summer. Well-built, superior AI. We do this through the data we collect, but also the way we process and handle the data we collect, and then actually deploy this AI. And then AI is resilient to a lot of problems you face when you actually end up deploying them. A lot of AI faces issues deployed in the real world where it wasn't trained on data where it was raining or data that takes place at dusk or in the morning. And we solve this problem by actually either getting that data or figuring out ways that we can mitigate the effects of potential deployment risks. Next slide. So Stiletto specifically has been critical in our development path. In March 2022, we signed a CRADA and spent 3 days aboard collecting EOFMB data off of security cameras and a Lockheed gyrocam. We took that data and labeled all of it, everything we were looking for, vessels, right, specifically, and used that to develop our algorithms and show back up in June for ONR's Scout exercise, if anyone's familiar with that, with Southcom and JPEM South. We brought our own FLIR ball, installed that aboard Stiletto, ran all the connections that were required, and then pulled data off of Stiletto's CAN bus so that we could figure out where we were in space and then where we were looking in space. That allowed us to observe targets during all of the demonstration period and tell them where they were and show that information on the Scout ATAC server. Between June and July, between the Scout and Trident Spectre, we had more time to develop and work with the data we had collected from Scout and provide a better product for Trident Spectre just 1 month later, thanks to Stiletto and thanks to data collection and the ability to rapidly integrate with Stiletto itself. And this pattern basically repeated the rest of the summer through ONR Scout Sprint 3 and through SEAL Team 18's Project Stark exercise. So we went from March 2022 being able to detect boats off of some security cameras and not do a whole lot else to September 2022, able to detect boats, tell you where they were in space, re-identify them later from a totally separate platform, and be able to communicate between 2 platforms that they are in fact looking at the same exact target. So we went from TRL4 to TRL7, and that's just not possible without Stiletto. They were critical in our ability to move forward at the pace that startups generally move at. And we've been extremely grateful for how knowledgeable they are and how willing to help they have been. Next slide. So here is a screenshot from one of the Scout exercises. So we were able to identify the target vessel, which was JPEM South gotcha boat, able to pull the AIS number, correlate that with the actual track itself, and then tell you what the course over ground was, tell you the length, width, and height of it, and tell you how far away it was. And this was the first exercise we went to. well before we had made all the improvements that were made over the summer. Next slide. So like I said earlier, we can function as an optical radar deployed on a FLIR on a surface vessel. So in that case, a passive optical radar. So we can more accurately detect targets, more accurately range those targets, and know that it is in fact a target. Zero emissions, so you're not deploying a radar. So if you're an NSW team and you need to deploy somewhere where you can't have any RF emissions, you can still use Cutlass as an optical radar provided you have some sort of vision sensor. We can also correlate targets that are detected with other systems. So if you are operating a radar, we can correlate your radar tracks with our tracks. We can correlate AIS with our tracks. Anything that is sending track data, we can correlate with visual data. I know in the video they were talking about using Nimble Turtle as a radar spoofing. We can defeat radar spoofing by looking at those radar tracks and then telling you whether or not what's being reported is actually there. Next slide. Thanks to a lot of the data we've collected off Stiletto, our long-range detection is considered state-of-the-art. On the left is a detection that was actually picked up. The picture is at a 30x zoom on a FLIR aboard Stiletto, but the detection was picked up at a unzoomed level. When I was actually sitting aboard Stiletto doing some other work and noticed the detection pop up, wasn't sure if it was actually accurate until I zoomed in all the way and saw that in fact we had picked up that target. You can see also on the two right ones, our horizon detection has been fantastic, and none of this is possible without Stiletto, as open source data sets for stuff like maritime domain awareness are just not up to snuff and don't contain all the information that's actually required to operate in this domain. Next slide. So we are also able to successfully visually re-identify targets. This is from the Scout Sprint 3 exercise. So this is the target vessel. On the left is the initial detection, and on the right is 3 hours later in the same AO, redetecting the same target and knowing it's the same target. And this is super helpful in that it does it in a matter of 64 frames. You're operating at 30 frames per second. So in roughly 2.5 seconds, I can tell you that this is the same ship you saw earlier, and it's constantly checking to see. If it didn't see it the first time, maybe it'll see it the second time. And we have from image to image an 80% accuracy in re-identifying vessels, and over full motion video, it goes up to about 95%. Next slide, please. All the data we've collected so far on Stiletto has been great. Even on, it has helped us be able to identify those that we still haven't seen before. So for example, this is an EPF that is inside Little Creek base, and we were still able to identify it and pick it up and throw a track onto ATAC and tell you where it was. The variety of data we've been able to collect and test against on Stiletto over the course of the summer has been more helpful than anything we could have done locally, obviously in Austin. Next slide. So once you do these detections, and it's cool showing stuff on the user interface for a FLIR, what's more interesting is being able to share that information with everybody. So we use the industry standard cursor on target or COT protocol to push data wherever it needs to go onto any common operating picture, in our case, ATAC. And there's a lot we can do with that. So we can push that information to ATAC. It's all real time. As we're observing it, we'll push one for every frame that we see a target, and then propagate that target forward in time if we no longer see it. We'll also correlate AIS information, and if we have access to the internet, we will pull any and all information associated with visual data that we can pull. So whether that's seeing what the whole name is, pulling the actual MMSI number, or anything else that we can use to look up and then pull that information. On the bottom right, you can see where we've identified a ship, given it the actual name of the ship, and then provided an actual image that we were able to pull off of marine traffic. Next slide. So that is Spyglass, which is our AIS metadata capture. So on the left, you can see where we, the George H.W. Bush was actually pulling into port, and it wasn't displaying an AIS signature, but we were able to pull the AIS ping for the tug that was attached to it, and doing some geodesic compares, we were able to apply that to the track. We couldn't see the tug, but we could see the George H.W. Bush. And on the right is the sandwich from the slide before, where you can see the AIS number along with the actual name of the ship. Next slide. So once we are able to zoom in on a ship, or we're close enough to a ship, we can do optical character recognition. And that allows us to enable Spyglass to find more information about a target. So this is Jide of South Scotcheboat, which is the target vessel for the scout exercises. And we can read that information off the side and save that to a target so that you actually know what the name of the ship is, not just what it looks like, not just what the AIS number is, but what it calls itself. Next slide. And then through that, we do route path prediction. So when we lose a target, given that we know where targets, vessels historically move in an area, we can reliably predict where it's going to be given pings. And those pings can be visual identification of a target, a radar ping, an AIS ping. It doesn't matter because everything we have is collected in a multi-target tracker. All that information is stored in one track, and we can continually propagate that forward. And this is useful for Southcom specifically, based on the far right image, which is narco trafficking routes in the Pacific. Next slide. So these are just a few quotes from government assessors from Trident Spectre. We had, just from Stiletto specifically, we were able to succeed far above what we thought we were going to be able to do at Trident Spectre. We were able to do both a surface and aerial cross correlation between two targets on two different deployed Cutlass instances. Next slide. This is just some performance metrics. So from the beginning of the summer, Scout Sprint 1, which is previous sprint, our metrics were okay. They were better than most commercial metrics for various models because we were combining so much data. By the end of the summer, we had almost doubled all of those and turned it into a model that was truly impressive, even to the engineers who were working on it and had been working with it every single day. We use a multi-target tracker once we get those predictions from the top metrics, and that raises our accuracy from this 80% to that 90% range, where we're not going to tell you a dock or a buoy is a boat. We're going to tell you a boat is a boat, and we're going to tell you where it's going, how fast it's going, and whether or not you've seen it before. Next slide. So Modern is looking to focus on AI and focus on how AI can help the DoD. And in helping the DoD has also helped us through Stiletto and enabled us to actually go from 0 to 1 in a period that most other companies struggle to do. And Stiletto is a big part of that. And I just want to thank them for all the help that they've given us so far. Thank you, guys.
Should I address the WAMB?
Thank you, Trevor. That was great. Thank you so much. We had a couple questions in chat that I just want to preface, I'm going to pull up our last slide that we'd really appreciate you taking out your phone, scanning the QR code and taking our short survey. That'll help us to determine what tech talks we'll do in the future. And then we also have another tech talk coming up this coming Wednesday from 12 to 1 on Marine Corps Systems Command and specifically their S&T needs. So you can also scan the QR code there and get signed up for that, but it's in Eventbrite where you signed up for this one too. So with that, just thank you all for attending, and I'm going to turn it over to Dennis and Julie to answer a couple of the questions that were in chat.
So I'll take the first one. There's a question that's a little bit nebulous. What about USV WAMV? So WAMV is a USV platform. There's a variety of, it's a way of adaptive modular vehicles. It's a company funded out of Silicon Valley. They have a bunch of different size platforms. Probably the most popular one is it's about 15, 16 feet long. It's got it's a goofy looking spider leg kind of boat where you can put different things on it. We don't currently have a WAMV. ONR funds robotic competitions with WAMVs. We used to have a 100-foot, like 102-foot variant at our command where Dennis and I are, but that went away a long time ago. So what's the particular question about WAMV?
So Robert, if you are still here and want to come off mute and want to expand on that, that'd be great.
Or you can type it in chat and we can try to answer your question. Or you can email us at a later date if anybody wants to know more. And we don't, I mean, like I said, we're not specifically working with them other than O&R funds, some work with competitions with the WAMV platform, but we don't have any of them at our command. That's not true. We have two that we are using at our Center of Innovation and Ship Design up at Carter, where we're just doing some experimental kind of stuff, but we don't really have any locally in the Norfolk area that I know of right now.
Perfect. I think that answered it. And then do you want to at all expand ATO or the buoy thing? I mean, we kind of answered it in chat, but
well, first of all, ATO is authority to operate, because a lot of people might not be familiar with that. So yeah.
Right, and a typical experiment or demonstration on Stiletto does not require an ATO, but when we have to activate the skiff, that will require an ATO.
Mm-hmm.
And the other question I saw up there about maritime buoys, we've had discussions on that. We've had inquiries. We have not actually executed any experiments with maritime buoys, but we're open to it. I didn't say it, but when we down select technology or we select technologies, one of the things we use is the DoD technology focus areas, of which autonomy, ISR, command and control are part of those DoD technology focus areas. A maritime buoy would fit, I believe, into one of those high priority technology focus areas, which is why I would say, I can tell you right now, that is something we would be interested in.
And those documents are widely available. You can just Google it and find them. There's a public version of them widely available. And related to the ATO question, the other great thing about using the Stiletto platform is that if you, and some people alluded to this, if you do any work on a ship, an operational vessel, it takes not weeks or months, it's a long time to drill a hole in a vessel or to attach something or attach anything electronic. It's a process, and it's pretty difficult, if not pretty impossible. So because the Stiletto vessel is not an operational vessel, it's a test asset, you don't have to do any of those authorities. Like the Stiletto engineers and technicians are fantastic. They know what they can and cannot do to that boat, and they install or work with your team to do the install. And a lot of that work for the install is in fact also funded by OSD. So a lot of it's very, in addition to low barrier to entry, like some of the partners that talk today are, it also doesn't cost the company anything to do the systems integration.